Are you filming?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hi. My name is Brittany Raymond. I actually have a bit of a strange request. Okay, bye. I'm shaking. So in last week's video, I posted a poll on my Instagram channel, on my Instagram page stories, asking what videos you guys wanted to see from me next. And I like put 3 options just to kind of gauge where everyone's interests were at, kind of fully knowing that this video was going to be the one that everyone voted for. But I also wanted to see if enough people were going to be interested in the other videos as well. And I got a lot of responses from people in the comment section of that story saying that they still wanted to see the book review thing, and I got enough people recommending the BTS, so I'm gonna do those 2 videos as well. However, for anyone out there who didn't want to see those videos, I ask that maybe you give them a chance, because I know the thing. I get the deal here. You guys want to see me talk about the next step. You guys are excited when I share things about that show, clearly. That's why I'm doing this. In any vlog or any video that has nothing to do with the next step, I'm going to be either answering a question from a previous video's comment section about the next step, or I'm going to be like talking about a memory or that time in my life in some way, shape, or form within the vlog. It's just going to be like baked into it somewhere, and you can like watch it and then see where I'm at today. Just to set up the scene here. Riley's in Studio B. At the time it was Studio B, and she has whipped on her pointe shoes and she's gonna do a little pointe solo. From memory, the reason why Riley is doing this solo is because she just recently saw James kiss Beth in Studio B. Beth's wanting to do this like side competition thing. Oh my God, it's all coming back to me. And then James ends up doing rehearsals with her and he's spending a lot of time with her, and she's his ex-girlfriend. And so Riley's naturally like, this is a bit weird. Like, why are you spending so much time with her? And then he ends up kissing her and Riley sees it. And then Riley just like, runs away. Cut to the next time we see Riley, I think is the next episode, and she's like, to work through her feelings, decides to put together this like sad pointe solo. I don't know why it was on pointe. I think Amy just wanted to do a pointe solo. Like, she just loves the way pointe looks, and so she thought, why you do pointe? Can you put your pointe shoes on and like do a pointe solo? I was like, sure. I just wasn't as comfortable on pointe, and so this solo made me so nervous because I'm not a pointe dancer. I'm like a contemporary jazz funk dancer. So like technique is not my specialty. And it's just not the thing that comes naturally to me. I really have to like work hard at it. I had to work hard to be able to get to a certain technical ability. Let's watch. Oh, that PK moment. Is that what it's called, a PK? Chape? Oh gosh, the terminology is gone for me. It's been so long since I've taken a ballet class. But that was so nerve-wracking because anything where you go from like a flat foot to on pointe, you have to have such strong ankles. And I would always be very like tense. And I think you can kind of tell here. Someone also said in a comment recently, they're like, can you stop criticizing? They said my acting, because they're like, I loved your acting in the next step. Can you stop criticizing your acting? And I was like, yes, okay. It's true. I'm very self-critical, so I'm gonna try and be more open-minded. This is how it ends. Oh yeah, my hair too. That was when I cut my hair short. I had wanted to cut it in a bob, and I remember telling I can't remember what it was, but I had to like get permission to cut it short because in season 1 it's long, and I wanted to cut it like a bob, and so I had to get permission from production and from the showrunner, and everyone had to like essentially say, yeah, you can cut it short. Oh yeah, that transition was always so strange. Oh, that was a flat split. Oh, I'm remembering now when I used to have flexibility. No, that's like the video of me and Brennan's dance dates video, plugging his video, where we recreated the Jiley duet dance, and I tried my like center stretch split. I don't do like splits anymore because my hips just can't take it. So I was like barely touching the floor, and that was a full flat split. It's hard to remember, or it's hard to think that like that's what my body was capable of back then. And now we'll make amends. And all the time. Ooh, nice chateau. You know what? My technique's pretty good in this. I'm a bit surprised, but it makes sense now. I had just graduated high school, meaning I had just finished my final year training at my competitive dance studio, where like the training was very intense, and like I had built up a lot of technique, and then all summer was dancing on this show. So then, yeah, that's why my technique is where it's at in this performance. I'm also remembering too how I would, in between each performance, if they were changing over camera angles or something, I would take off my pointe shoes to like let my feet cool down. And then I think it was Dorota, who was our hair and makeup, or no, sorry, makeup artist, head of makeup, I believe. And Dorota she would give me like feet massages. How nice. And she would get like an ice bucket together, and I would dunk my feet in the ice bath. Don't take enemies for friends. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, good développé. Oh, not on my point, not on my point. I'm remembering that I did those Russian fouettes. It was like a very intense part of the solo. This one shot, it was like the Emily special. So they had her come in, and then they had me do it once without her, I think. And I remember like that was maybe the one time I didn't go up on point. I was like, my feet weren't able to take it or whatever. I just didn't do it, and they used it. This was the move. Okay, so fun fact about that little sequence there, and just this whole dance in general. The whole reason I wanted to do a reaction to this solo specifically is because... Okay, so I guess I should explain to the people what I'm doing right now. So I will sometimes work as a videographer for Competition Wizard, which is Ben's company, where he services dance competitions and like helps them with the like giving them the photography and the videography from certain events. Anyways, and I'll help out for a weekend and like work an event. And I worked one event. I can only work one event this past season. And at that event, I'm like nervous. At that event, I was just doing my thing, filming whatever, and I hear the song When the War Is Over. Now, the Next Step makes all of their own music, and sometimes, I think only on one instance, they like licensed a song. That was only in season 1. I think it was the song Stutter. I know! Was When the War Is Over. I heard it, and I was like, wait, they had to have gotten this from the Next Step. And then I thought, well, maybe they just found the song, like they could have just found it online, like maybe it's not connected. But then the dancer, it was a soloist, she started doing the exact, like some choreography from when I was on the show. So it was very clear that she was like inspired by that routine, and it made my heart so happy. I made a note of who it was in like the studio and was like, oh, I would love to make a video about this. Now I want to use the footage of her dancing in it, but obviously I'm not going to do that without her permission and like the family's permission and the studio's permission. So I have to call the studio right now to ask for it. And I'm so nervous because I hate phone calls. And like doing this stuff is like weird to me, and like it's anyway, so I'm just like getting out my rambling right now. But her name, okay. All this to say that like I reached out to the studio director. So what was I saying? Okay, so I call her and she's in the middle of like dance camp right now. So I was like, and then I was like, oh, of course she's like, okay, what? I like barreled out all this information at her. And she was just like, okay. Okay. And so she said, do me a favor, send me an email with all of these details, and I can give the parents the information. They can then okay it, and then if everyone's comfortable, then yeah. So I think it went well. I just like, I'm shaking. So yeah, I'm hoping that she lets me use it. That's all. All this to say that like I reached out to the studio director. I got her permission to use it. So at first I didn't think, I was like, oh, maybe they just found the song. But then the dancer did this one dance move, the part where I go, ba-da-da-da-da. I'm not gonna replicate it, but it was like this. Here, I'll do it for you. That whole moment. Anyways, so the dancer performing on stage actually did that dance move at the exact same time that I performed it, or that Riley did it in that solo. And it was really cool that I got to be there to like watch this dancer perform it. Okay, back to this. Oh, originally we choreographed this solo. I think it was this solo in the big studio. So Studio A is like the massive studio. And what would usually happen is we would on lunchtime, or like if they were filming on location, or if they're filming in the other, so like we'd have like one big studio space. We'd have Studio B, we'd have Studio A, and then like the cafe junction hangout spot. And so it would usually be, we're filming in the junction today, the like hangout spot room, the like bubble tea shop spot, whatever it was. It changes every season. And then we would have Studio A to like practice, rehearsing, whatever. And we'd have to just stop whenever they were recording and then like go back to rehearsals or whatever. This solo, I'm pretty sure we rehearsed in a bigger space. and then they wanted to film it in this studio, but they wanted to film it lengthwise. This is what I'm gonna do. This is Studio B, just to give you scale. These are the doors that Emily walks through in the routine to like see how Riley, to watch Riley's performance. This is me, Riley, dancing. Normally in a studio space, when you're practicing a routine, you do the whole thing facing this way because you have more space widthwise. And in a natural performance on a stage, you have more width side to side than you do depth front to back. So that's why you practice it this way. So we had choreographed this solo for it to face forward like this way. However, I think because they wanted the shot of me performing facing this way and Emily walking in behind me, I had to do the entire thing facing this way with like, and this is like a camera track. So it was like just like a little, it's almost like a train, and they have like a dolly on it on wheels with the camera. Anyways, and they would like push it back and forth, and that's how you get the like traveling shot moving back and forth. And then they would reset and have the camera this way, like camera A, camera B, camera C, whatever, pointing at me and then going this way. And then they'd reset, have a camera over here shooting this way, whatever. So I would still do the entire performance facing this way every single time, but the cameras would move around the room to be able to like record different angles from the back, whatever. And that's why you have to perform it a million different times so they can get all those different angles. Because we had choreographed it facing this way, the spacing of everything was very wonky. So like I had a lot of traveling movements. I had a lot, like I had that jeté and I had things. So I had to like readjust. And that's why there was a couple moments where I'm like on the floor, I can't really adjust too much. I almost, on that butt spin moment, I'm remembering now I'm so close to the camera, and every time I almost would like kick somebody. Anyways, it's all coming back to me that was a really difficult dance to be able to perform because I had planned to do it this way and then we had to do it that way. So we had to like rejig some stuff, I'm remembering. Oh God, it's still going. Oh, and that dance. Okay, a few fun facts about this. You can kind of hear in the background of that, there's like a couple like breath moments, because when I'm performing the solo and there's no dialogue happening or whatever, they don't mic me. So I'm breathing heavily during this for sure, because that's point work is very challenging and complicated. Even if it's simple, it's like not easy to do if you're not familiar with it or you're not as comfortable with it. And because I'm doing it a million times, I was very out of breath there. I know that. But because they don't have me mic'd during the performance, I would have to go in an ADR afterwards. And ADR is essentially, I don't know what actually those words stand for. What does it stand for? Alternative dispute resolution. What? Oh no, that's government. No. Automated dialogue replacement. That's what it means. Come in, and if like when you say a line, you like bumped the mic by accident and it's like fuzzy, so they can't use the audio on that track, but they want to use that shot, you come and you re-record the line, hopefully matching the way you said it in the scene. Or sometimes they want a different performance from you, so they'll like get you to do it differently. In this instance, whenever we were dancing, because they didn't have the audio track of us breathing heavily, but we're clearly out of breath in the routine, they would have us come into the studio and just literally stand there going like, just like a million different versions of that breath work stuff, so that they could put it into the soundtrack afterwards. And I'm just remembering how ridiculous that always felt. And then here I'm mic'd. Oh, and then I break down. I remember now, I break down because Emily shows up and is like, oh, and she hugs me and I'm crying in her arms. Oh, yeah. Sad moment for Riley. For this video's question, I wanted to like touch on the James and Riley thing, because in last week's video, I mentioned that James and Riley are still together and that it bummed me out and that I kind of wish that they didn't stay together. And so many people are like, oh my gosh, Britt's hating on Jiley. And then you have your own reactions to that fact. And someone actually commented, I would love to hear your thoughts on the Riley, James, and Alfie drama for season 4 and Alfie's character on the show as a whole. Personally, if Alfie didn't kiss Riley when he knew she had a boyfriend and Riley wasn't with James, I'd love Ralphie together. I also think Alfie had the potential to be a better character if they didn't make do some of the things he does. Maybe his behavior comes from being a prince and always getting what he wants. Maybe. I think this question kind of ties into Jiley as a whole and the reason why I'm bummed about it. I wanted to explain it a bit further. I understand that that couple was like this big, like, it was such a big part of the next step when I was on it. It was literally the identity, like Riley alone and James alone would always be considered one half of the whole Jiley. Like it started with Riley and James as separate characters, and then it became Jiley as like a character in and of itself. And everything that happened to each of those characters had to have something else to do with the other person, just because the writers of the show and the showrunner really knew that the fans loved that relationship. If I'm remembering back to season 1, I'm remembering that Riley was like not that interested in James, didn't really want to have anything to do with him, but he kind of like wears her down, so to speak. And then eventually he like charms her into dating him. Then it becomes her entire identity, is just like that relationship. She can't do anything without him. She worries too much about everything. From memory, I'm remembering that there was never a point where she just kind of figured it out on her own, and that it was like Riley as an individual sort of struggles but finds a solution on her own, and then James kind of has his own thing. And like a healthy relationship, you would have two people who are living their life independently of one another, but they choose to be with the other person every day, and that they support one another through struggles, but it's never a dependency. James and Riley was a dependency. Riley was dependent on James for everything. She felt like she couldn't do anything without him. She wanted him to be with her at all times, but she also wanted to support him traveling the world. And the minute he leaves, Alfie then starts charming her, and she starts feeling connected to Alfie, and so now she wants to be with him. In terms of an actor, I think it is very juicy stuff. It's super complicated, and it's fun to play because you have a lot of complicated things, and the whole goal of an actor is to make the scene as difficult as possible for your character to get what they want by the end of it. And that's what makes it interesting, because then there's this like struggle, this back and forth of like battling all these complications to be able to achieve the thing that they want. But I always wanted Riley to end up not being with anyone and to kind of like find her own path in life and to separate entirely from James and from Alfie, from any guy, and just like be herself and do her own thing. And I kind of thought her going to business school, that maybe they would be, as adults, be like, maybe we're not meant to be together. And also, yeah, because they cheated on each other a whole bunch, and neither one of them were like comfortable with that, because some relationships are open and whatever, but like they were not. It just feels like there's no trust there, and that it would probably be better if they just like separated the two of them. But at this point, it's like such a fan-driven storyline that like I don't think the writers ever want to break them up, or like, I mean, right now it doesn't matter because they're not in the show anymore. That's my theory, why they're like, well, we have to have them together. You know, thank you so much to everyone for asking questions. Be sure to comment any questions below, because in any future video, whatever it is, if it's a vlog, if it's a TNS reaction video, if it's anything, I will be answering a question from comments from you about the next step, or about anything really, but I'll touch on the next step, so please watch those videos. Thank you to Beaches Dance and Music Studio and Stacy there for letting me use the footage, and Sophie for performing that solo and also letting me use the footage. I just had one more thing to add to this. I forgot to mention that the choreographer of TNS, who has always been Amy Wright, and I need to give her a shout out. Thank you, Amy Wright. And Rachel Ross, because Rachel Ross was her assistant at the time, and she also helped me respace the dance, and like she would always like, whenever because Amy had to be in charge of all the routines, so she would be like working on some of the other dances while we were working on this solo together, me and Rachel. So Rachel also kind of has a lot of choreography in that as well. So Amy Wright and Rachel Ross, thank you for making up the moves.
You should also probably get permission from Inspire. They'll 100% be on board, yeah, but okay, just to be above board.
Just so like, I'll email Jim directly, be like, hey Jim, this is my plan, feel free to give me a call.
I can give you his number, and then you can just get that sorted right now. I don't want
to call another person.
I know, it's
Two
hilarious.
Phone calls in a row is not, that's why you're saying call, because
yeah,
you're like, I just want no, I'm not doing that for your entertainment.
But the whole point of this video is for people's entertainment.
Yes, but I entertain them in other ways in this video. And this is just so much for me to edit right now. No, I'm not doing that. Okay.
Can I stop recording then?
Well, no. Sorry, are you okay with filming right now?
Sure, my arm's fine.
Do you want to just put it down? I can like set it on a tripod instead.
That might be fantastic.
Okay, here. Well, there's a tripod right here.
Yeah, there is. Do I stop recording now?
Yeah, sure. Just for temporarily. Put the thing on. Okay, I gotta make the email.
Oh no.
What?
I wasn't recording.
You're joking. I know it when you're bullshitting me.